Well, yesterday we
add a comment with stars. Oh,
there you go.
Maybe that's why it didn't show up.
On the Guthrie level, we've got a lot of topics to get to, but one of the big ones, Hall of Fame coach Clay Tarter passed away suddenly earlier, June 3rd, I think it was. His funeral, his services was yesterday. They did a great job, about an hour and a half service, and the community church, which is the largest church we have in Guthrie as far as seats available, and it was packed, and there was a whole lot more people watching online as well, and truly a legend. I remember I was in his class when the memorial bombing back in 1995. He had me first hour. Thank goodness I had him first hour because I was strolling in a little late, and I never made the tardy list. He helped me out. He was my Sunday school teacher. Embarrassingly enough, I've only read one book, and it was with him in our Sunday school class. And it was, of course, he knew for me to read it, he made it a sports book. And it was, I can't remember what it is, but and then, of course, I dealt with him many times covering Guthrie cross country and track, but he would never, I was going through the interviews trying to find some cool clips, and he never really wanted to talk a whole lot. He always said, hey, go talk to Rachel, go talk to Zach Cates and all the state champions. So, but truly a great, good dude. And I told you yesterday at the funeral, I would list off 500 people who would pass before bringing up Clay Tarter.
Yeah, I just thought, the thing. Of course, I didn't have the privilege of ever competing for Clay. I didn't grow up here, and I'm too dang old anyway. Him and I were closer to peers than we were where he would have taught me. But I mean, could have, I guess. Yeah, we could have actually.
Could have, yeah,
early in his career. But I think the thing that I took away from this, two things. Number one, when Tanya and I lost our son back in 2008, Tyler, Clay was one of the first people I saw after Ty passed, and the way he handled that interaction was indicative of all the stories we heard yesterday. I think the greatest compliment you can give a man is to say he was a good man. And Clay wasn't a good man; he was a great man. Yeah. He touched thousands of lives. Hearing the stories shared by his nieces yesterday, and then our good friend Seth Robbins spoke for Dennis, since Dennis is having some back issues and just physically, just from a pain perspective, just wouldn't be able to get up and do it. But I learned things about Clay. I think we all did a little bit yesterday. I knew about the cars and I didn't know about the motorcycles. I didn't know he was an artist.
I didn't know the artist. I knew about the motorcycles and the cars.
But the thing that I think we all knew is Clay was just a cool guy.
Yeah.
He was a great man who was cool in everything he did. 9 state championships, 14, I believe it was, runner-ups.
Yeah, if it wasn't for McGinnis,
he'd be over 20.
Yeah.
He'd be over 20 state titles.
Yeah.
So with all the greatness that he was as a coach, and he was a great coach, I think he's the greatest coach ever to coach at Guthrie in Guthrie school history, personally.
Yeah.
And I think the record bears that out.
Yeah.
But I think that the coolest thing for me is just how he went about being just a man in the community. A great father, a great brother, a great uncle, a great brother-in-law, a great son-in-law, a great son, and most importantly, a great husband. Cheryl's such a sweet soul, and it is going to be unusual seeing. I look forward to seeing Cheryl, but it's going to be unusual because Clay and her were always together.
Yep.
And we're lucky. We got to know him. We got to have a little piece of him in our lives, every one of us, some to a much greater detail than I did. But the interactions I had with Clay was never anything but positive. It was never anything but good. He was just a great man, and he just you don't replace people like Clay Tarter.
No.
I think I'm almost 56 years old, and I can tell you that he would be. Holly Chappell used to always tell me, he says, "You're in my top." For start out 20, I think before it was all said and done, I think I made his top 15, maybe. I think it was in his top 15. I think he told everybody that. But what I'm getting ready to say, Clay Tarter, as far as just quality human beings, is a top 5 guy in my life. He's a guy that you wish you did know better, that you wish you did have a closer relationship with. Mm-hmm. But just a true legend of a human being, obviously a legend as a coach, but he'll be sorely missed in Guthrie and in a lot of communities because he was so well respected and thought of all across the state. So sad time. We know for the Tarter family, the Oaks family, and then many others. What was cool, Ronnie, is when they asked everybody to stand if they'd ever ran for Clay, and it looked like 2/3 of the room stood up. And then they asked if you've ever taught with Clay, and it looked like Chris Leeds already says, we're going to be the only 2 still sitting by the time they're done doing this, because it was but what a testimonial to a life well lived. It's never enough time when you're talking about somebody like Clay Tarter.
Yeah. He was a great man. I know that, but I was with some guys from Dallas with work at the school and everything, and we were going through the high school, and I said, we lost a pretty big legend here at Guthrie, and they're like, "Oh, really?" I said, "No, you don't understand. When I mean legend, I mean absolute legend.
Absolutely,
he's earned won every single award you can ever think of, nationally and state, local.
Yeah.
He's an absolute legend.
He is.
So we were walking through the schools, and Coach John Chappell, Joe, come over here, look at this. You ain't gonna believe your eyes. We go down to they were cleaning the girls' locker room out, him and Coach Zach Clymer, and there's a little cubby hole back there in the back where stuff where there's stuff been stored there for years.
Yeah.
No telling how long it's been there. He goes, "Go look at that trophy right there." I pull out this trophy. It's a football trophy from 1971 to 1972 team. Guess who's right there on the front?
Clay Tarter.
Coach Clay Tarter. Yeah. And that was just mind blowing to me. It was amazing to see that. So I hope that trophy got somewhere special, but it was so cool that they just happened to find this trophy. No telling how long it'd been in there.
Yeah.
It was just so cool.
And he found Guthrie cross country.
Founded it.
Yeah.
They are a program. They're qualified for state tournament. They've won them as you mentioned, but it's a strong program, boys and girls, and he was a part of it. He was the reason it got started.
Well, and I want to say this too. One of his closest, dearest friends, another Hall of Fame coach, Coach Gary Boxley.
Yeah.
Longtime coach, longtime athletic director, another world-class human being. There's a reason why they were so close personally. And that's it. You flock together, and it's it's just one of those things. You just very melancholy, and there's just a little bit of a cloud, because it's one of those you don't believe.
Yeah.
When I got word of it, Michael came in and said, "Hey, Pop," said, "Coach Carter passed away." And I immediately called Chris, and Chris was like, "Yeah, I'm working on a release right now. I was just waiting for the family." And and it just, you're numb.
Yeah.
You're just numb when you get news like that. Because like Chris said, so full of life and so vibrant. He was at Red Bricks Nights with his beautiful bride and with his mother-in-law and hanging out. We lost one of the best ones that's ever graced the streets of Guthrie, Oklahoma.
100%, no doubt.
And, times like this, you just got to love on each other's family, make sure that their family's okay and his family's okay. And they will be. They're a strong family and strong faith. But, it's a sad time.
A lot of people have mentioned in the past about renaming the track after Clay Tarter. Yeah. And I think that was something that was eventually going to happen.
Yeah.
I wish it would have happened sooner. Obviously now,
right.
So he could have seen that because it's a no-brainer. But I go a step further. In the school, well, I'm not a school employee and I don't make that decision. But I'm sure it'll come somewhere down the line. But I think we always call it the practice facility.
Yeah.
I would just rename the whole thing.
I would too.
And it honors him. It gives that facility an identity as well because soccer games, matches
Yeah.
are played there.
Yeah.
And so you go to
Well,
the Clay Tarter,
The practice field for
Practice
football's
field.
there. Of course, track is
Little
there.
League football plays
Little
there.
League, and that's something. Another thing I learned. I did not know Coach Tarter was a football player.
Yep.
And he wasn't just a football player; he was a tough football player. I mean, so once they said it, I went, "Yeah, that checks." I mean, I can totally see that. But he was always the guy that helped kids develop a passion for running. But yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I mean, I think what a great way to honor one of the best we've ever had here. And think about all the lives he touched at that facility.
Tons.
I mean, tons. Yeah. There couldn't be a better place.
And the way he treated the All-State runners to the I barely got you out there
to my people,
to
people like me.
Yeah,
and it was just about their PR and getting better and better. And he'd pick them up, take them home, and how you doing and all that stuff. So
my son Jacob ran cross country, junior high and a couple years in high school, and of course I called him right away when I heard the news. I didn't want him to see it on Facebook, and Jacob was one of those kids, was out there participating. He wasn't ever going to win a state championship, but he treated everybody the same. Of course, this vivid image of Coach Tarter on his bicycle.
Yep. Big calves. Too.
Oh, massive calves.
Yeah.
These massive calves. But just, gosh darn it, you just hate having these conversations. I'm glad you brought that up, though, because I think it's something that, it gives us an opportunity to share a few memories and thoughts on Coach Tarter. But and then the other thing is the thespian in him, the acting.
Dressing up.
Because a lot of times too, if you weren't really close to Clay, I never got to see this side of him, but just the cutting up and the goofiness and the orneriness, that I think we can all relate to. It's just a really, like I said, we're all very fortunate that we got to have a little piece of him in our lives. And we just need to keep Cheryl and his daughter and the whole family in our prayers.